Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for our webinar, iClicker and Achieve, Active Learning in the Chemistry Classroom. Just a few announcements before we start the presentation. Once again, if you're just joining us now, we have put our iClicker course join information both on the screen and in the chat panel of GoToWebinar. It is completely optional to participate, but it is a lot of fun, so we really do encourage you to join us. Even if you've never used iClicker before, it should only take 30 seconds or less to create a new iClicker account. So you can follow along with these instructions on the screen here as I go through the rest of our housekeeping announcements. If you already have an instructor account with iClicker, you can use your instructor email and password to log in with the link in the chat panel. Please note that that link is case sensitive if you're typing it into a web browser. You can also participate with your mobile device using the iClicker student app. Just look for Macmillan Learning as the institution and iClicker and Achieve Chemistry as the course. We have also muted everyone to keep out background noise, but we do want to hear from you. So if you'd like to ask a question or give us any feedback, feel free to type it into the questions panel on your screen. We will be monitoring the questions as they come in, but we'll also be saving some questions for a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If we don't get to your question in the webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with you by email. Finally, we are recording the webinar and we'll email you a link to the recording and the slide deck within the next few days. That's it for housekeeping. So with that, my name is Lindsay Thomas and I am the Training and Documentation Manager here at iClicker. I am very excited to introduce today's presenters. We have Natalie Dougal, who is our iClicker training specialist and faculty advocate, and has over 10 years experience teaching and using iClicker in community college courses. And we have Dr. Mike Varela, who got his PhD in chemistry with Neil Shore at UC Davis and is the Learning Solutions Specialist for Chemistry at Macmillan Learning. Natalie is going to kick things off for us, so over to you, Natalie.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. All right, so we've got a lot to cover today, but I think everybody who is attending today is going to get what they need from our time together. The first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick overview of iClicker and Achieve. So if you came in here with a lot of knowledge of iClicker, but not so much of Achieve, or you came in with a lot of Achieve knowledge and you need to know more about iClicker, or you didn't know much about either, you're going to come out of this knowing about how these tools work and how they work together. I'm going to give you an overview of iClicker that's a little bit deeper, and I'll give you a demonstration, and this is when you'll have the opportunity to respond to iClicker questions as a student. And I highly recommend that you do it because it's really fun, but it's the fastest way to really understand how iClicker can change your classroom and change the energy in your classroom and also change the stickiness of your lessons. Then Mike is going to come in here and he is our Achieve expert on the chemistry side of things. He's going to give you an overview of Achieve and a demonstration of that environment and talk about ways that Achieve is a really great tool for all of your chemistry students. And then lastly, like Lindsay said, we're going to have that question and answer session. So please throw your questions into the chat right now if you have something for the Q&A so that you can get that out of your mind and then you can just focus on the content at hand. All right. So just to quickly level set on what these two tools are, with Achieve, you get this really easy and simple way to design and deliver course content. So one of the wonderful things about Achieve is it's kind of like an overflowing treasure box of materials that you can use to easily put together a custom course for your students. So there's a ton of materials there. You're not going to use them all. And the idea is that two instructors can use the same chemistry Achieve course, but through customization can give their students a different experience that really corresponds to the way that that particular instructor teaches the course. Achieve is also really flexible and responsive. So if you're teaching synchronously or asynchronously, asynchronously or synchronously, you're able to engage your students. And I'll talk about ways that iClicker can do that as well. Achieve also offers out-of-the-box, ready-to-assign formative and summative assessments. And these assessments are ones that work for students who are very, very high achieving and need a lot of challenge, and students who may be struggling with the material more. Achieve also offers an interactive ebook within the system. And a lot of times within that ebook, there's dynamic visual aids that really help students understand concepts in a way that they can't with a traditional paper textbook. Lastly, Achieve includes the iClicker student app as part of the Achieve system. So if you are using a full Achieve course, iClicker is already included with Achieve. It's part of the tool set that we're giving to you. Now, if you're using an Achieve Essentials course, those are those more streamlined, slimmed down courses. They may not have iClicker included, and we're going to show you really quickly how you can check your Achieve course to see if it's included. But for the most part, if you have a full Achieve course, you have iClicker included. So what does iClicker do within Achieve? iClicker is this way that you can make your classes responsive and interactive. That's something that we know research shows makes classes more effective, but a lot of times it's really difficult to bring these kinds of systems into your class, especially when you feel like you already have so much to cover. Our goal with iClicker is to make it something that's easy to bring into your class, that doesn't require a whole changing of the lesson plans in order to try something new. Instructors simply ask their students questions and students respond in real time. And I'm going to demonstrate how that works in just a moment. You can use iClicker with whatever tools you're already using. So right here, I'm using Google Slides. If you use PowerPoint, that's fine. Within Achieve, we even have a bunch of PowerPoint decks with iClicker questions in them. But you don't have to preload a bunch of questions and answers into some proprietary software. At Macmillan, we're always trying to make it so that these materials are yours. So even if you're using, say, Achieve materials, you're able to download them and edit them, and they come in PowerPoint, and they're not all locked up in some kind of a system. It's the same thing with iClicker. iClicker just floats on top of whatever tools you're already using, and you just add a question to your lecture deck. And when you come to that question, you turn on iClicker, and it takes care of the process for you. So it's really, really easy. iClicker activities and question decks are also included with Achieve. So again, it's easier to edit than it is to create. You might not use these right out of the box, and you might cherry pick your favorite activities. But if you're thinking, hey, I want to give iClicker a try, maybe just a little bit, we want to make that process super easy for you by already including a lot of iClicker activities in Achieve. So I want to know about this group, and I want to see if you've used iClicker or Achieve before. So I already logged into the iClicker desktop software, and I started my class. So I just have a little toolbar here that I manage during class. I'm going to click on Poll, and I'm going to make sure that I've selected the type of question that I want to ask. And then I'm going to hit this little play button to send the question to my students. And all iClicker did was take a screen grab of my computer and sent the image to my students' devices. Okay, I've got 5 responses. And multiple choice questions tend to go really quickly, around 30 seconds. Even if you have a large number of students in your class, it tends to be a fast process. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and look at the results. All right, I can see that my attendees have a real variety of experience with Achieve and iClicker. So to mark a question as correct, all I have to do is touch it to turn it green, and then all the other responses will turn red. But I don't think there's a wrong answer for this, so I'm going to go ahead and touch on all of the responses. I can have more than one correct response. So now everybody gets a little bit of a point for being correct. Okay, so that's a way you can see how quick and easy it is to bring iClicker into your class. Just asking your students familiarity with a topic before you launch into it can be something that's really valuable because it gets students reflecting on what they know before they're given new information. So, how does iClicker work when you're actually in the classroom? The first thing that instructors really appreciate about iClicker is it gets students to class with iClicker attendance. You'll notice that when you added my class and my class started, there was a little join class button, and that's what got you into our iClicker session today. Clicking that join class button creates an attendance record within iClicker that both you and your students can reference. So this is something that both instructors and students really, really like. For you as an instructor, maybe you don't love taking attendance and it's not something that you think you should be doing in college, but maybe your institution requires you to do it. This makes it so you can actually automate taking attendance. And then at the end of the semester, you just export a little Excel file and send it away to the administration. You don't even have to look at it if you don't want to. Um, but for your students, it's really great because they get a tool for self monitoring. They get this really great little calendar that shows them all the days that class was in session. And if they were there that day, they get a little green box on that day. And if they were absent, they get a little red triangle. And it also quickly shows them how many times they've been absent. So you won't have students coming to you anymore and saying, "Hey, can I miss class on Thursday?" You say, okay, look in the app. How many classes have you missed? You know you can miss 3 for the whole term. Have you missed that many? Well, then no, I'm sorry, you can't. And students really like it because they want to know how many classes they've missed. They want this information. Um, we also have a chemistry instructor who recently wrote a blog post for us who's using iClicker for contact tracing in her classroom. This is something that instructors on many campuses are being required to do, and it's kind of creating a little bit of an administrative headache for people. So if you're interested in that, and I think we're going to send this with our follow-up email, we have a blog post where a chemistry instructor explains her entire process of how she uses iClicker in order to do contract tracing. So that's something that you might think about as you think about bringing iClicker into your classroom. Next, we make passive classes active with iClicker polling. So that question that I asked you just a moment ago, we call that a polling question. So it's a quick way to reset student attention. Um, Students can have the best intentions of staying focused in class, but even somebody who's really, really trying not to let their mind wander, after 10 to 15 minutes, they wander a little bit. Asking an iClicker question is a good way to scoop those students back into focus and to get them focused on class again. It's also a really wonderful way to give absolutely every student a voice. That's something that if you value participation in your class, you want every student to be able to participate. And with iClicker, suddenly every single student can. It's not just your most extroverted students who are willing to raise their hand who are going to have a voice. Absolutely everyone will have one. You're also able to create these really tight feedback loops. Feedback loops are essential to learning. When you put out that effort of grappling with the challenge of some sort of an equation, and you come to what you feel is the correct answer, the moment between knowing whether you're right or wrong is an enormous window for learning. And one of the issues is a lot of times students will go through that process on a paper exam. And let's say they do that on a Friday and they turn it in, and I work my neck off all weekend to grade those, and I get them back to them on Monday. When I hand those papers back to those students, they don't look at the equations. What they look at is the grade on top. And that makes perfect sense. It's human behavior. We've lost the opportunity to create a feedback loop. With a feedback loop, we're able to do something like ask an iClicker question, where we give students a challenge and we ask them if they can answer a question correctly or not. And then they have this moment where they don't know if they're right or wrong. And you, as the instructor, can take that moment and create some really great opportunities for learning there. And then you're able to tell them whether they got that answer right or wrong, completing the feedback loop. And this is something that when you do this many, many times throughout a class session, it really improves learning outcomes for students because they get less focused on grades and they get more focused on actually learning the material. Lastly, with iClicker, you're able to automatically create flashcard packs and practice tests for your students with iClicker study tools. So with iClicker study tools, students simply mark polling questions that you've asked. They get added to the study tools feature within iClicker, and then they can study those questions like a flashcard where they get flipped over, or they can take an entire practice test. So this is something students love again. We want students to love the iClicker student app. We want them to enjoy using it. So we always make it something that's really fun and interesting for students to interact with, that has a lot of positivity to it, because, learning is a positive practice. So it's really easy to start up iClicker within your Achieve course. All that you need to do is write some questions in your preferred presentation tools, or you can just download them from Achieve. Next, you just create your iClicker course in Achieve. The way that you do that is you log into Achieve, click on your course, click on the gradebook, and in the gradebook, in the upper right corner, you're going to see an iClicker button. You simply click that button and you're able to be walked through the process of setting up your course. And that keeps everything neat and tidy within the Achieve system. You're not going to be managing a bunch of different learning management systems. You keep everything neat and tidy in Achieve. Lastly, you want to get comfortable using iClicker Cloud. One of the things about iClicker that can be a little intimidating for instructors is you are using software to ask students to do something during a live event. And, maybe you're nervous it'll go wrong. Um, we're here to really help you get comfortable using iClicker in your classes. So we'll have a link for you all where you can sign up for an iClicker demo or you can sign up for an iClicker training. If you sign up for a training, myself or Lindsay or our colleague Elena can meet up with you. We can talk with you about iClicker for your specific course and get you all set up and comfortable with iClicker Cloud. We also have a ton of self-serve stuff as well. So if you would rather watch a video, we have those, we have articles, we have all those sorts of things. But we really do want you to feel comfortable using them in your class because it's a lot of fun and students really love it. So I wanted to show you another iClicker question, and I want to know, how are you teaching next term? So this is a multiple choice question. And so are you teaching in person, hybrid, online only? Or maybe you're not teaching next term. I needed the word next there. And I know that this maybe looks a little bit fancy because I did a little graphic design on this, but this is just a PowerPoint slide with basically an outline format over there. All right, I've got 7 responses. I'm gonna let this go and stop. All right, let's look at these results. All right, looks like most people are gonna be returning to in person, and we've got a little bit of hybrid going on. That's wonderful. That's a big change from what we had before. I saw a lot more people in the fall who were in that hybrid or were doing online only. What's great is iClicker works in every single one of these situations. Here's an example of a different type of iClicker question that students also really respond to well. So with this type of question, what I'm going to do is I am going to ask you what's called a target question here. Okay, so I just changed my question type to target, and I'm going to hit the play button. So my desktop has been sent to my students. And what I want the student to do is to simply touch where on the image they feel the correct answer to this question is, and then click send. So select the level of Bloom's taxonomy that represents separating a concept into its parts and learning how they relate to one another. And so this is a really great type of question because it gets students interacting with the materials in a completely different way. It also makes it so you can ask questions with more responses than just a multiple choice question. Lastly, you can use this type of question in some really creative ways that are specific for chemistry instructors, and Mike is going to show you some of those in just a little while. Okay, so even though this was the first time that this group responded to a target question, that only took 1 minute for everyone to figure out. Okay, so now I just click on the results and then I click on the image, and I'm going to make this image nice and big so that I can grade it easily. And here I see that most people have picked the correct answer, which is analysis. So all I do is I draw a box around the correct answer. There we go. Does not want to release right now. I don't know why. Oh, iClicker, what are you doing? Okay, I did it. All right. Then I'm going to click save. And then that just grades all of the answers right there for students. So that's a really fun one to have with students that can be a little bit interesting. Let me go back because I accidentally, there we go. Let me ask you another type of question, which is how do you define active learning? So I'm going to change this to short answer. With a short answer question, you respond with up to 140 letters like a tweet. And it's always a good idea to simply ask your audience what they know about a topic before you explain it more deeply. So if you're thinking that iClicker has to be a really deeply developed part of your lesson plan, it really doesn't. You can come in and simply ask your students, hey, what do you know about this topic before you start talking about it in class? Sometimes your students really surprise you. But more than that, it gets your students thinking about their own knowledge before, again, you present that new information. So I've got 2 responses here, and I've had a group of 7. So I just keep an eye on my number of responses. So short answer can take a little bit longer than other forms simply because getting within that 140 characters can be hard for some students. And I'm still waiting on 2 more responses. All right, let's see if that last person gets theirs in. Sometimes they just have to take a break. I'm gonna wait until 125 and hit stop. Okay, let's see what our group came up with. All right, students paying attention and taking notes in class. Participation. Participation from the learner to help drive topic depth, understanding, etc. Okay, this is a really good starter definition right here. So I'm just going to touch on it and quickly mark it as correct. Having students participate in class, hands-on activities, that would be active learning. Anything that engages students in real time. I think we got to get a little more specific than anything. So one of the things that you can do with these short answer responses is you can mark more than one correct, but you can also mark which answer is the best one. So I'm going to leave this blue star on this one because I feel like this is the best definition that I got from this group. If I wanted to, I could also put in another definition of my own and mark that as the best response. Doing that makes it so that you get that best response on the back of those flashcards that I talked about. I can also display my responses as a word cloud if I want to, and I can see that students are at the center of absolutely everything that we do, and that a lot of people talked about participation. And I think it's always good to get a little bit more concrete about what we mean by student participation. So let's talk quickly about passive learning versus active learning. With passive learning, we really get that sort of stereotypical idea of the college classroom in our heads, where we have a professor at the front of the classroom behind a lectern, and we have students sitting in front of the instructor dutifully taking notes. And I saw that somebody on the last group of responses said that students listening and taking notes is a form of active learning. And it's definitely something that we recommend students do when in a passive situation to try and have that feeling of being in an active classroom. But listening and taking notes does not create active learning. When we're in that passive classroom, class is really a one-way conversation from instructor to student. And it's that kind of old idea of the students as an empty vessel that the instructor fills with knowledge. And simply because students sometimes raise hands and ask questions, it doesn't make it into an active classroom if what is happening is all one way. And so, one of the things that can be a little bit difficult about an active classroom is you have to be a little bit more flexible. With a passive classroom, you're very much able to time your classes out and really chunk them down to the minute, and you have a lot of control over how that class goes because you're in that delivery mode. Whereas when we get to active learning, things go back and forth, and sometimes lesson plans have to change. So, when we're involved in active learning, students are essential to the lesson. If the students are not there, the lesson really can't take place. And that's because active learning requires the student and requires student involvement for a lesson to take place. Students learn by solving problems. And those problems are whatever in your discipline it is that challenges students. And again, Mike is going to get more specific into the type of problems that chemistry students can solve with iClicker. Most importantly, class is a two-way conversation, and it goes between students and instructors. And so sometimes, your students are going to surprise you. They may have mastered a concept that you thought you were going to spend all day on, and you have to pivot a little bit. Or maybe they reveal that they have a gap in their learning where you have to go back and maybe scrap some lesson plans. The great thing about iClicker is you're not railroaded into any kind of a lesson plan. You can always change what you're doing, and you can even ask questions on the fly with iClicker because you're not going to preload anything. It goes along with your lesson plans. So here are some pedagogical iClicker activities that you can try with your students that don't have anything to do with a specific discipline. First of all, ice breaking. Ice breaking is really, really important to do with our students. We expect our students to work collaboratively. We expect our students to treat each other with the respect of peers. We want to have this scholarly environment. And part of that is we have students engage in activities where they get to know each other in an academically appropriate way. Icebreaking activities are also great for you as an instructor because it gives you more information on what your students are like outside of class. If you have a student who you've never interacted with before and suddenly you see they've shown up for office hours, you can go and you can look at their icebreaking activities from the beginning of the term and say, oh, I can see that this person is working two part-time jobs in addition to taking a full student load. Okay, that gives me more of an understanding of maybe where the student stressors are. Um, Other ideas that you can use are entrance and exit tickets. This is a really great method to use if you are looking at your lesson plan and you're thinking, I'd love to bring iClicker in, but the timing seems a little bit tight. What you do is come into class, turn on iClicker, and put an iClicker question up on the board for students to answer as they come into class and get settled. It could be a really simple question like the level setting question that I asked you all about active learning. You could just take the day's topic and ask your students, what do you know about X? And let them fill that in as their first iClicker question of the day. That's going to be really interesting for you to look back on. And then at the end of class, as students are getting ready to leave, Achieve, you could simply ask them, what new information did you learn about X? And in that way, you've bookmarked the class very, very nicely. You've asked the students to engage in some reflection, which is really important to learning. And you haven't really added anything to the middle of your class that might break up a cadence that you've got that's already pretty good. So if you're thinking about that, that's a way that you could bring iClicker into class that's not going to have you remaking your class from the ground up. Another kind of a question would just be, what do you remember most from our last class? Asking students again to remember and make those connections is really important. Think, pair, share activities are perfect for iClicker. They were actually the reason that iClicker was invented, and they're really wonderful in the chemistry classroom specifically. With this type of activity, what you do is you wait for a question where about half of your students get the question wrong. Don't grade the question. Don't give an answer to it. Instead, ask students to get together with someone whose answer is different from theirs. And then ask the students to come to a consensus on one correct answer by asking the iClicker polling question again. Then what you can do is you can actually compare the results between the two different iClicker responses. And you could say, okay, the first time I asked this question, here's how everyone responded. The second time I asked this question, here's how everyone responded. What changed? And you can ask students to volunteer how their thinking changed. And then lastly, you can go and explain the correct answer. And this is a way to take one iClicker question and turn it into an activity that's super memorable for your students. And they really get a ton out of this kind of activity because, one, it's kind of a spur of the moment thing. It's something where you're going to see in your results, hey, this is a good think, pair, share question. But it's also that feedback loop that we were talking about where students have tried to meet a challenge and they want to know, did I get it? Did I make it? And that's something that's really important to our students as they're learning. You can also use iClicker for virtual hand raising. This is really great if you're faced with teaching your class over Zoom. Handling the chat during these online presentations is really tough. I don't do it. You'll notice that I'm just talking. I'm not looking at the blinking chat window in the corner that I know is there. And that's because Lindsay is doing that. For you, you might really want to have a chat opportunity with your students, but there's just too much going on there. With iClicker, what you can do is you can open up a short answer response and use it for students to virtually raise their hand. And this is really nice because students are limited to one response. They can't go and overtake a chat box with their needs and demands. They just get to raise their hand one time. And it makes it so it's a lot easier for you as an instructor to manage it. Lastly, you can always ask on-the-fly questions with iClicker. So maybe you don't plan on asking a question about a certain topic because you think your students have got it, but you come to understand that your students really missed the boat on something that should have been fundamental. You can stop your lesson plan right there and ask them some iClicker questions to get them to review that concept and really understand the question better. So I've been talking a long time. I'm ready to turn this over to Mike. Mike, let me go ahead and give you the presenter power so that you can show us all the awesome things in Achieve.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Mike Varela. I'm here to talk to you about Achieve and how you can use iClicker within Achieve to make your classrooms really exciting for the students. Now, what you're seeing here is the main Achieve homepage, and I wanted to make sure to show the homepage so that I can show you, the instructors, where you can go if you'd like to find some more information about the Achieve courses, or where you can even sign up to schedule some time with me, with our iClicker team, Learning Management Solutions team, anyone, if you do need to get questions answered, or if you just want to take a closer look at things. So on the homepage, up at the top left, you will see the 3 bars. And if you click on those bars, you'll see Contact Us. And within Contact Us, you'll see a few different things. Training and demos would be where you'd want to go if you wanted to sign up for some additional time to look at Achieve or iClicker. One of the other things I do want to make sure to draw your attention to is in that Contact Us, you can also find your sales account managers here. So if you're not sure who your sales account manager is, or if you're new to Macmillan and need to speak with someone about pricing, access, all of that good stuff, you can click on that Find Your Rep button and then go through that process. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch tabs here and jump over to my Achieve course for our interactive general chemistry text. Now, everything that I'm about to show you here is tunable to whatever you want to do. I've added a few things here in my course to show you how things would look to your students. So when you add assignments to your course, this is the student view. So the students will be able to see assignments that have passed your due date, things that are due this week, next week, 2+ weeks into the future, and then some assignments that you may have added to the course, but didn't necessarily assign a due date because you really didn't want to have a due date. We have training assignments that are available for the students that show them how to use the platform. And there's no prerequisite knowledge that the students have to work on these training assignments. There are chemistry related questions within the training, but it's more along the lines of, okay, you, the student, need to draw the structure of ammonia. We're going to show you how to pick the elements, pick the bonds, put the bonds in the drawing environment, all of that good stuff. So, I always encourage our instructors to actually set these as their first graded homework assignments because, I think back to my own teaching experience, and my students wouldn't do anything unless I made them do it. So all of that is available. Now, within the interactive general chemistry course or any Achieve course that contains an ebook, you will see a dashboard that looks very much like this. So here we've got your pre-built resources, your gradebook, and the gradebook can be connected to Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, or Moodle. So if connecting the gradebook is important and or necessary for you, that's something that we can do. This reports section will give you information about student performance, a link to the ebook, and then this people section is where you'll be able to find the students who are registered in your Achieve course. Now, one of the things I do want to make sure to mention here is from your view within the course, you can go into your course content. And what I've set up here is what we refer to as a pre-built course, where the system already has all of the assignments, everything that's in there for you to use. And you can click into these chapters. And within the chapters, you're going to see homework assignments, you'll see pre-class assignments, in-class stuff if you want to do it, lots of things available. With these activity guides, we have some really, really cool stuff for you as the instructor. So within these activity guides, you can do several different things here. So you can use individual pieces. So if you just wanted to use a worksheet, you can just use a worksheet. If you wanted to use just a pre-built iClicker slide, you can do so. But if we click into the activity guide itself, you'll be able to see lots of detail within the guide. So, we've got some, sample time as to, how long everything here would take. Over here on the right-hand side, we've got some more cool stuff here. So you can download all of the resources from this site. You can download individual things, but I do want to draw your attention to the interactives. And the interactives are really fun because what we can do here is we can adjust things, and there's going to be questions within the activity guide that ask students about the activity that they've done. For chemistry, we're going to get into precipitates, we're going to get into thermodynamics. So there's going to be a lot of different interactive material that the students can work with. And again, you as the instructor can feel free to use these during class. You can even make these available to your students outside of class if you want to, because you can add it to your course. And if that's something that you want your students to have access to, they can definitely have that access. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over these because there's still quite a bit to go over. But if you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us, set up a time for that demo. We're always happy to help and answer any questions that you may have. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into one of the assignments that I've added to the Achieve course so that I can show you a few different things. So within the assignment, you as the instructor can do lots of different things. So when you click into an assignment, you're going to see the instructor view of the assignment. So your students would never, ever see things looking like this. You can preview individual questions by clicking on the preview button. And one of the things that we really love to do with our numerical entry questions is we like to program things with algorithms so that numbers or elements change from student to student. And there's nothing special that you as the instructor have to turn on to get that to work. That's already set to go. And here toward the bottom, if you see this sample variable sets button, you can click on that and then you'll be able to see which, numbers, elements, whatever may be changing from student to student. Now, the important thing here is that the students will all have to answer the exact same question, so they may have to calculate a pressure in an ideal gas law question. And that's fine, everybody will have to calculate pressure, but they'll have different temperatures and volumes and things like that to work with. So, that helps build in that nice amount of randomness. Now, in addition to these questions here, this is the pre-built assignment, you can always remove questions or you can add questions, because up here at the question bank button, you will have access to the entirety of our interactive general chemistry section. And you can go through any chapter, any section, and add whatever you want to your course. It does get better though, because at this Choose Collection dropdown, if you click on that, you'll be able to see lots and lots of other banks that you have access to. So if you wanted to scare your students with some point group symmetry from inorganic, if you wanted to scare them with some Diels-Alder stereochemistry from organic, you are always welcome to grab whatever content you'd like and add those to your courses. Now, with iClicker, one of the really nice things is that we've added tags to iClicker friendly questions within the bank. And what you can do is within this search bar, you can just go ahead and type in iClicker, and then you'll get a list of questions that are iClicker friendly. So you'll see the little tag here. And one of the things that you'll notice with the iClicker friendly questions is that they're pretty much all going to be multiple choice. Now, that's great. That's certainly one of the ways that you can use iClicker in your course. But what if you wanted to do something a little more complex? And Natalie, if you wouldn't mind bringing up those slides.
Do you want me to take control again?
Please.
You got it. I think you have to hand it to me, and then
Oh,
I
I
take it from you.
apologize.
Don't worry about it.
I am used to Zoom, so I do apologize. I'm going to hand it back off to Natalie, and
There
we're
we
going to
go.
go ahead and show some slides. Perfect.
Okay, great. Okay.
So here we have, a nice retrosynthesis question. And this type of question is something that we would be doing, not in class, for homework, on an exam. But when we look at this, we really don't say, oh, this is an iClicker friendly question, because there's no multiple choice in it. But because iClicker can do things like targeting, what you can do here is you can tell the students, okay, students, we're going to do this retrosynthesis. What I want you to do is I want you on your, iClickers, what I want you to do is to select the bond that would make for the best break in doing a retrosynthesis on this molecule. And from your end, you can select the correct bond, obviously, but then the students can do whatever they want in terms of selecting whichever bond. So if they select something from that isopropyl group, if they select, that carbonyl oxygen bond, they can do that. But then you can also say, okay, well, here's the correct answer, or as Natalie mentioned, you can have multiple correct answers, but then have one that's more correct, because in the case of retrosynthesis, there are lots of different ways to break molecules. Some are better than others, but this allows you to have that kind of interaction with the students and utilize iClicker in really ways that we couldn't do before. So it looks like we've got some results coming in. Yep. And then once you see those results, you can give your students, that minute, 2 minutes, whatever you want to do. You can select wherever you want things to be correct or more correct, and go from there.
I am an English major. I would not know how to correct this question. Is it important that I grade it, or do you want to move on to the next question?
No worries. We'll just go and move
Okay,
on.
which is a good point. You don't have to grade every question in iClicker. Okay, I'm going back on mute.
All right, next slide, please. All right, so same kind of thing here with Clicker. We've got this reaction mechanism, and what you can do in class is you can say, okay, students, where does the mechanism start? And I remember when I was teaching that one of the things that students would come up to me pretty frequently is, they'd come up to me after class and say, everything makes sense when you cover it in class, but when I get home to work on this by myself, I don't know where to start. So that's something that you can do here. So in this first step with the reaction of bromine and 1-hexene, you can have the students say, okay, students, look at this molecule, select the atom or the bond where things are going to begin in this mechanism. You also don't even have to ask the question that's on the screen. You can ask whatever question you want about the molecule and then still present that to the student. So, when you see a question presented within within the content, don't think that you have to stick with whatever question's being asked. You can do whatever you want here. And that's what makes it really nice, because, if you want to show exactly, okay, let's do this first step, or maybe you even want to do some retrosynthesis here, whatever you want to do, again, that's going to be the big indicator. Next slide, please. So one of my favorite things in organic chemistry was doing NMRs. It was just something that I really enjoyed doing. I think it was because our NMR room in the basement there in Davis was always cold, and I like it cold, but it was really quiet too. So anyway, so what you can do here is you can tell the students, okay, students, we've got this simulated NMR. We have a molecular formula. Where do things go? You can have them do the integration here. You can have them select the splitting patterns and put them down in the different places. Again, all whatever you want to do. Next slide, please. And, we have some real NMR spectra within our content bank. So you can show the students, an example like we just saw with the computer generated NMRs so that they can, clearly see triplets or doublets and things like that. But then you can also expose them to real NMR. And then, like for this question here, where we have the molecule and the students need to decide which protons go with which particular peaks or splitting. So, lots of different things that you can do here, lots of different ways that you can do it. And, I'm wanting to show these to all of you because, when folks think of iClicker, they think of multiple choice. And multiple choice and chemistry really it's not terribly exciting. So I wanted to make sure to show some examples like these where, you can use really interesting questions and present them in class for your students and get that participation to hopefully make chemistry more exciting for them. Okay. Right. And again, I do want to make sure and say that, any questions that you folks have about our chemistry content, please don't hesitate to set up some time with me to go over the class, go over, all the different things within Achieve. I would be more than happy to show you everything. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. That was awesome. And I hope that I hope that folks noticed that Mike and I have been doing this through GoToWebinar, which neither of us use very often, and we've been using iClicker the entire time, and we've been using Achieve. And I think from an audience perspective, it hasn't been too much. So when you think about bringing this in for your students, from your perspective, you might be thinking, oh, I have these moving parts. um, it it really does come together very, very easily. And like Mike said, we are committed to making you feel comfortable before trying this slightly fancy footwork in front of your students. And the truth is, it would be kind of weird if you didn't care about doing a good job with this in front of your students. We really do understand how much you care about your students and how much you care about your time with your students. It's precious, it's limited. We want to help you make the most of that time. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and stop that there. Let's see how everybody's feeling about, oh, everybody's feeling good. All right, Mike, we did our job. Um, People are feeling good about using iClicker and Achieve in their classes. And again, this is an example of the kind of question that you can use with your chemistry students too, just to take the temperature in the room. Before we get to question and answer, I want to repeat, just like Mike did, that we have a huge support library for everyone. We have it for admins, we have it for you instructors, but we also have it for students. Bringing new tech into your classroom should not give you a new tech support job. That's what we're here for, and that's what these materials are for. So we have those to support you. We also have live support available via chat, email, and phone. And again, that's for you, also for your students. You can sign up to meet with us for a training, just like Mike was talking about, and we will have a link to send out to everybody so that you can easily sign up to meet with one of us, just again, to make sure that you're ready to go on your first time in class. So let's go ahead and talk questions and comments, since I know we are up against the time.
Thanks, Natalie. So we have had a couple of questions come in already, and I know our time is almost up, but if you do have a question, please feel free to enter it into your questions panel. The Q&A really is one of the things we enjoy the most about doing these webinars. So first question is, you mentioned that iClicker is included in most Achieve courses, but how do I know, can you remind me for sure how I know when it's included in my Achieve course?
Sure. So all you need to do is log into your Achieve course, click on the name of your course, and then click on the grade book. In the upper right corner, you should see a button that says Sync iClicker. Clicking that button will take you through the process of creating an iClicker course for that class. It'll make sure that it goes into Achieve correctly, and it'll make sure that your students are never asked to pay for iClicker, because iClicker is included as part of your Achieve course. So if you log into your course and you don't see that iClicker button, it may be that you are using an Achieve Essentials course. With an Achieve Essentials course, you can still bring iClicker into your class. It's just something that your students are going to have to pay for, maybe in a bundle. So we can bundle Achieve with an iClicker Essentials course. And I think you'll have to contact your salesperson for exactly what the price would be, but I believe it's a $5 bundle. Is
Yeah,
that
I
right,
think that's
Lindsay?
correct. Yeah, I think it's $5 net extra.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Thanks, Natalie. Mike mentioned that Achieve works with different learning management systems like Canvas, Blackboard, Brightspace by D2L, and Moodle. Does iClicker also work with those same systems, or do I use the integration that I've set up between Achieve and my learning management system?
Oh, I thought this question was going to be for Mike.
Sorry.
No, that's totally fine. So if you set up your course through Achieve, everything's going to go through Achieve for you. You will not need to set up iClicker separately through your LMS. If, say, you were in that situation where you have an Achieve Essentials course and you want to also have iClicker, you may choose to have iClicker sync with your Canvas course, your Moodle course. We work with all the major LMSs, so Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Moodle, Brightspace by D2L, Sakai. Am I forgetting one, Lindsay? Did I get them all?
So we have Canvas, Blackboard, Brightspace by D2L, Moodle, and Sakai. Sakai is a kind of, I think only iClicker works with Sakai, and Achieve does not integrate
Okay.
directly with Sakai for a deep integration, but with all the major learning management systems.
Yeah. And we're happy to talk your specific learning management system, whatever it is. We know about them. We work with them a lot. So we're really happy to talk through whatever your particular situation is. But iClicker works with all the major LMSs.
All right, thanks, Natalie. So how exactly do I go about booking that demo with Mike? What was the link again? You have the link on the, it was a couple slides ago, Natalie. I'll also throw it in the chat.
Is this the one we're looking for?
Yes, the one at the
Yes.
bottom there. So that's, we made a short link so it would be easy for you to just type it into your web browser from the slide. But I also put the full direct link into the chat panel of GoToWebinar. So please do feel free to sign up for a session with Mike for Achieve, or Natalie, or me, or our colleague Elena for iClicker. We also have a learning management systems team that you can sign up for a session with them as well. So with that, I know we're at time and I don't have any other questions that have come in. So I would just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time out of your day to join us for this webinar. Again, we'll be sending a follow-up email with the recording, the slide deck, the link for demos and trainings to everyone who signed up for this webinar and attended. If you do think of any additional questions later, feel free to respond directly to that follow-up email and we'll get you the answers you need. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy using iClicker and Achieve in your courses.